Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Fortin with Michigan Matters. Um, I'd like you to please, especially if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. Really help us get the word out. Um, in today's little broadcast, we got a few different subjects. The last time I talked about flock cameras and I talked about how I would like to see them be utilized. I still believe the same thing. The real criminals are in government. That's where flock cameras should be. However, I wasn't going to talk about them today, but there's some interesting things that I've discovered, and maybe you've seen them too. According to ABC in Florida, there's a gentleman who was arrested in his home, uh, something about child pedophilia or whatever, that flock cameras misidentified the man according to facial recognition. And here's this husband and father in Florida who was arrested for something someone else did in a different city because the flock cameras, the Soviet style observation system that they're shoving on all of us, misidentified the man. He was arrested and everything. And according to the ABC report, he was arrested and let loose after a bit when they finally sorted it out. But it took a year to get rid of all the blot his record free. Now, being accused of some form of child abuse is a hell of a thing. Most of us, anyway. There's a lot of Americans that could care less, I guess, but that is a heck of a thing to be accused of and taint you and everything else. Now, I understand that he's suing, and I hope he gets a $500 million. After all, our money's thrown around everywhere else. We can start paying these people for the suffering they go through. Another example of flock. Of course, they will use the excuse that, well, the technology's not perfect yet. We don't want it to be perfect, folks. We don't. But anyway, then there's another couple with a car. They were pulled over and accused. I don't think they wound up getting arrested. I think this was settled on site. But they were pulled over because their car was stolen. Turned out the flock camera misidentified the license plates. I guess the license plate was supposed to be APX55Y. It was misread to APX55X, which was a stolen vehicle. So this family with a little kid in the car was pulled over, and by the grace of God, it was discovered in time before they were arrested and everything. You know, people are going to be inconvenienced, they're going to charge. You're going to wind up getting tickets in the mail once a week. You're coming home from work, and anywhere you spent five over, you'll be pulled over. Our law enforcement, we're in support of our law enforcement, but they do not belong spying on us everywhere we go, whatever we're doing, and all that type of thing. Tickets should never be issued based on this stuff. Patrol cars need to be out there patrolling. That's what has to be done. But everybody wants to sit home and do nothing and let technology do all the work. Now, anyway, in the articles I have read, it was brought up an organization called flocksafety.com. Look it up. flocksafety.com. And I'll tell you what, they got all kinds of good stuff for us. They have drones now that can be housed anywhere, small drones that can be housed anywhere in a light pole or anything in a weatherproof container. It can be opened up and launched from a cell phone, and they can travel 60 miles an hour and go and spy on anybody with high resolution cameras, facial recognition, license plate recognition, and all that good stuff. You want to talk about 1984? Orwell in 1984, it is on our doorstep. They're installing this garbage everywhere. And that's what data centers are for, to store all this stuff and investigate it anytime they want. Ladies and gentlemen, we are losing our rights. Our Constitution says it guarantees that we are to be secure in our persons. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not secure in our persons. Anyway, I didn't want to talk about flock cameras today, but I'm afraid this is not going to go away for a while. But I do believe, personally, it has to go where the criminals are. Flock cameras belong in every public building where elected officials and bureaucrats make decisions. They should be watched 24/7. Everything from bathrooms to boardrooms to private offices. We need to see what these people are doing, because they are the ones, ladies and gentlemen, that are the fraudulent criminals in this society. And I'm sure you have other states. If someone's watching this from other states, I'm sure you're going through the same garbage. This can't be just Michigan, although we are leading the way. We're going to outpace California and New York for being a socialist state real soon. Now, there's another thing that happened in Michigan that proves how absolutely corrupt Michigan is. If this don't prove the corruption in Michigan, I don't know what does. However, I think it was the 25th of August, the Michigan failed to approve a citizen-only voting proposal. Now, this citizen-only voting proposal required 446,198 signatures in order to get on the ballot. Valid signatures. Now, 244 days before they were due, they turned in 700,000 Michigan citizen signatures. And the board of canvassers, made up of 2 left-wing socialist, semi-communist Democrats and 2 rhino Republicans. Of course, the Republicans voted properly, thank goodness, in this rare case. But they turned it down. They looked at 1,000 signatures of that 700,000. Now, of that 1,000, if 629 were good, it would have been approved. But they only found 626 good signatures. So they declined based on 1,000 signatures because 3 were invalid, more than what they required out of 1,000. They assumed the 700,000 is all the same. Something this important and this constitutionally important, why couldn't they look at another 1,000? Now, they've got a history. This corrupt bunch has got a history of this. A few years back, not in this governorship race, but the last one, 5 Republican candidates were thrown out by this 4 people. These 4 people get to decide who runs for office, what petitions go through, and everything in the state of Michigan. That's got to be changed. There's got to be a better system. We got to look at other states. We got to do something because this is absolute corruption. So in the last governor race, 5 people were removed. Perry Johnson, who ran again this time. Perry Johnson was removed. Donna Brandenburg was removed. The police chief of Detroit, Craig, he was removed. He was running for governor. There were 2 more, and I forget who they are now. But all 5 were removed because of what they said were fraudulent signatures. Yet the people committing the fraud were never gone after. In fact, 2 that actually committed the fraud were finally dealt with in Macomb County a couple months ago. They were found guilty of doing the fraudulent. But all the people who were victims, who legally paid for people to go out and select signatures, the victims of the fraud were all thrown off the ballot. And I contend that they were thrown off the ballot because the Uniparty of Michigan did not want them on the ballot. The Uniparty of Michigan did not want this on the ballot. No matter how many signatures were turned in, they're determined to knock it out. So there was another instance too recently, but whatever. But this here is really terrible in my opinion. I am hoping and praying, and I believe it's true. I think the DOJ is watching Michigan. They are. Our elections are corrupt. Mail-in ballots are an avenue for fraud. The world knows it. The DOJ knows it. President Trump knows it. The Supreme Court, who upheld the ability to do this corruption, they know it. But it's allowed anyway, because guess what? We are going to turn America into a socialist state one way or another, and the Uniparty and the deep state are all for it. But anyway, this kind of thing has got to be addressed. We are going to elect Republicans, and this time we're going to hold Republicans. When we take the governorship in the House and the Senate in Michigan, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. We want change in Michigan. We want to return ourselves back to the idea of being a republic. We want industry back in Michigan. President Trump's doing a fantastic job of bringing industry back to America. But when industry comes to America, they got 50 states to choose from. And who in their right mind would go to a state like Michigan where business and industry are taxed to death? You got to be a union member again and all this stuff. They're going to go to states that are business friendly. And that's what's going to happen. And unless we change Michigan, all of our children will be moving. When I first got involved as a precinct delegate in 1986, there were 19 U.S. House seats in Michigan. There are now 13. In one lifetime, from the 80s to today, we lost all this representation in the U.S. House because Michigan has been circling the drain with a uniparty corruption for years. And that stuff's got to change. So now, one other thing now. What's the latest beef with our president? President Trump has put a 90-day window in which beef can be brought in tariff-free. Now, I do believe he's trying to do the right thing in that he says that our beef herds are lower than ever, probably because of government intervention, by the way, and regulation and God knows what all. But anyway, our herds are lower than ever before, and he wants to rebuild them herds, but at the same time, lower beef prices. So he's allowing more beef to come in duty-free, allowing time for the herds to rebuild. Now, I talked with Michael Pratt, who was on this podcast a few months back. Michael Pratt knows a whole lot about that. He's a beef grower in St. Clair County, Michigan. And I'm going to ask him to be on this next week, and we're going to talk this all over. I had a long conversation with him. He sees both sides. He understands both sides. And he's not, he's very knowledgeable in this field of agriculture. And we better do something with our agriculture. They are growing product now. They're just seedless, and they're glad of it, which means you can't plant nothing, right? Seedless things don't reproduce. So that's why they're doing it. It's not a convenience so you can eat your watermelon without seeds. It's all about control our food supply. And that's what they've been doing. Destroying farms, doing God knows what to our food and everything else. So we've got to get into that sort of thing too. America is under attack from all directions because we've allowed it to be so. And we've got to make a change in that. So hopefully we'll have Michael with us next week, and we'll get into that subject much better. Then the latest thing that has happened is this trade war with Canada. This Mark Carney is a pure global socialist. He's destroying Canada, civil rights in Canada, the Canadian economy, and everything. They were negotiating with the United States and Canada, and we were giving them a fantastic deal. Remember now, people forget. Some are mad about Trump's tariffs. The world has been tariffing us to death for decades. And that's okay. But then we start doing it. Oh no, we're destroying the economy. Oh no, we're making prices raise. No, we are not. So anyway, Trump and the trading group, they offer Canada a great deal. Canada gets up and walks out. Mark Carney walked out for political reasons. He got elected because there was a hunk of Canada did not like President Trump. And he's an anti-Trump, global socialist European, head of the European Bank at one time and all this kind of stuff. This guy is a WEF operative, and his job is to remove Trump's support in the midterms. So are we going to vote for our country, or are we going to vote for socialist Canada where you don't even have free speech? So anyway, Mark Carney walks out of this thing, and now he's all over the world crying and screaming about President Trump. I mean, it's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Look into it. Log into Promethean Action and listen to Susan Kakindra and Barbara Boyd and watch their videos. They do 2 or 3 a week to find out what's actually going on, what's actually going on with Iran, what's actually going on with this European model that's been destroying America. They've been keeping us into global wars. Iran is not a global endless war. This is something that Trump was stuck with. Every president not doing anything. Every president, some of them giving tons of money to Iran so they quit building nuclear weapons, but they're a bunch of extremists and are going to build them anyway, just collecting our money and using it to build them. So he's finally stuck with it, and he must have information we don't have. They must have been close because he's putting an end to it. This is not going to last forever. But we have to have patience and understand that 50 years of garbage can't be taken care of in a year and a half. It's going to be taken care of, and the prices will come down. So anyway, go to Promethean Action and watch their videos. You can go to our website. There's a link there. If you can't find it, you should be able to find Promethean Action. They're all over YouTube and everything, and they're very, very good. And they've been studying this a long time, and they know why we've been in endless wars. Okay, and it's globalism. It's Europe, largely England. So anyway, check into all that, okay? And it's important, ladies and gentlemen. Our children's future is going to be decided very soon, and we better be on the right side of history because we've been on the wrong side of history for decades. So anyway, I want to thank you for being with us today. Please like and subscribe. Go to michiganmatters.org, spell it out, michiganmatters.org. That's our PAC. And donate if you're able. I know there's a lot of places to put money, but if you can help us a little bit, it'd be great. We don't need a ton, but we need something. So please help us if you can, and be with us next week. And hopefully we'll have Mike Pratt with us, and he'll give us the lowdown on this whole beef controversy, because a lot of beef growers are upset about it. Mike has got a very good approach to the whole thing and an understanding of what the president's doing and how he understands it's not a long-term thing. God bless you all. Pray for America. Pray for Michigan. We need it. God bless you all. Thank you.